Our contributors got kidnapped at the border. I put into a room, told, hey, what are you doing? Tell us all your passwords, etc. Bank accounts were shut down. Addresses were doxed on where people are living. Stop using fiat. It's literally used to kill people. Now, thankfully, we have a cheap, easy to use, open and free alternative. It's called Bitcoin. Get a wallet to get out of fiat. The most evil part of fiat is it tricks us into stealing from others without even knowing or realizing that. Any security technology can only protect you if you resist an attacker. Security is fundamentally a human problem. No technology can provide you security unless the human wants to be secure and resists an attacker. Bitcoin is a big player. It's no longer a small currency. It's one of the biggest base monies that humans have ever created. What Bitcoin enabled us is to have a peaceful protest that's profitable. You just need to hold Bitcoin and you increase your purchasing power, your capital, simply by saving your money. We have the technologies to end slavery in our lifetime. That sounds crazy, but it's actually true. Unfortunately, there is a lot of slavery in our lifetime currently. Slavery never really ended. It just changed face a little bit.
Hello and welcome to another episode of You're the Voice, coming to you from beautiful Prague, once again in the Treasury studio. I just finished recording an episode with the Treasury guy here that told me that I had used this studio more than anyone else, and I am so happy about it. Hello, Max Hillebrand.
It's good to meet you, Efrat. Happy to be on the show finally.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have you on. Thanks for agreeing to come.
Yeah, always. And cool that you got the studio.
Right.
It's good to use the space, you know.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm so happy about my partnership with Treasury. They're awesome.
Yeah. One of the OG companies.
One of the
Still
OG companies.
True to their core. Treasury is one of those projects that I've always admired. And they did a lot of innovation, a lot of pioneering in the space, and that's awesome. Yeah.
And they're one of many Czech companies that are in this space. And it's quite amazing to see how many companies come from Prague and Czech Republic.
Yeah.
Because it is still such a small industry and early in terms of the adoption. And we're seeing quite a bit of innovation coming out from here.
Yep.
And you live here? Are you based here?
No, it's one of my places I return to. I'm traveling the world a lot, but Prague is a special place. It's one of my favorite cities, and one of the OG Bitcoin spaces here, Paralelní Polis. Like when this was one of the first conferences I attended to back in like 2016 or something. And
it's
it was
a real
just
cypherpunk?
It's real cypherpunk.
Uh-huh.
It has the Institute of Crypto Anarchy, has a co-working space, a Bitcoin cafe that since 2014 does not take fiat, Bitcoin only.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Why did I not go there yet?
Well,
I have another week here. I should probably go there, right?
You should go there, yeah. Unfortunately, Paralelní Polis officially has ended. They're kind of reopened it as a second culture, and now they do take fiat. So that's a step back, I would say.
Ooh, how did that happen?
They got rug pulled. The Ethereum Foundation didn't pay bills, as far as I can hear. So,
Are you serious?
Yeah, unfortunately. But a lot of amazing projects came out of this space.
Okay.
A lot of great talks. If you look up HCPP on YouTube, you'll have hundreds of really groundbreaking talks. The best ones are not recorded, you know.
Always,
But there's a couple of really good ones on there.
And have you been speaking there?
Yeah, many times. Announced a couple cool things there. That was a really special event.
When did you start your journey in this space? Which year?
I guess the first time I heard of Bitcoin was 2012.
2012.
Back then I was mainly an Austrian economist. Haven't used Linux or free software yet at all, so I didn't get it. And then it took me another 4 or 5 years to get familiar with free and open source software. A friend of mine helped me install Ubuntu on my laptop. And then I started doing some research on why is free software interesting from economics point of view.
So wait, I'm stopping you. When you say Austrian economist, it means you studied economy?
Well,
or you taught yourself about Austrian economy?
I do have a bachelor's in economics and banking, but I learned nothing about economics or banking in there.
Of course, clearly, yeah.
No, so it came all from self-study, or in other words, just reading books.
Autodidact.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mises.org. It's an amazing website.
Mises.org, which is beautiful. And I agree with you,
tens of thousands
amazing.
of books. Yeah.
So I want to try and get a sneak just before you continue with your story, because we are going back to it. I just want to introduce you properly to my audience that may not know you. So just sneak in your short bio, and I'm sure it's missing many things. And then you will complete for me what I've missed here. So Max Hillebrand is a Bitcoin privacy advocate, entrepreneur, and used to be the CEO of ZK Snacks, which was the team behind Wasabi Wallet, one of the leading tools for preserving financial privacy in Bitcoin. A firm believer in Austrian economics and free open source software, Max builds what he calls weapons of defense to empower individuals against surveillance and coercion.
Yes.
I love it. What did I miss? Okay, take us through the journey, please.
Yeah, it started with economics. Like, that was my first love, really. Specifically monetary science. Rothbard is fantastic on this topic. There's a tiny pamphlet called "What Has the Government Done to Our Money?"
Yes.
Beautiful title.
Yes.
And back in the day, I did a lot of videos about economics.
What has the government done to our money, people? Go read it.
Yeah, it's great. Available for free, Mises.org.
Yes.
And so I did an audiobook of this book, but I replaced the word gold with Bitcoin. And it still makes sense. So that Rothbard really is way ahead of his time. The guy never even used a computer. He wrote all of his books on a typewriter.
Wow.
So completely not a cypherpunk.
Yes.
Even though he was around at the time, just barely. But he understood the foundational principles that the cypherpunks build upon. And so a lot of the early cypherpunks, like Timothy May, Nick Szabo, they read on Rothbard heavily and relied on his thoughts. So they were like the first to kind of bridge economics with computer science. And then still a lot of Austrian economists never really understood the value of Bitcoin, because they thought that it's digital, and digital things cannot be scarce, and money needs to be scarce. And it really takes...
And also some people think today that digital is dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. So Austrian economics is full of boomers. If you go to an Austrian economics seminar, everyone's in a suit.
I have just been to a Freedom Fest in Palm Springs in California with a lot of libertarians, all white hairs.
Yes.
Great people, wonderful people, but so much talk of gold.
Yeah.
And I was brought there to talk a bit about Bitcoin.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. No, I went to the Mises University in 2018.
Yeah.
And I gave a bit of a lecture there on Bitcoin as well. By that point, more economists started to get it. And I think now it's pretty non-controversial. Yeah. Bitcoin is
absolutely
Austrian economic money, and they all appreciate it, even though most still don't really get it. They're at least in a camp of free market for competition for money. That's great, which it obviously is. That was my first love. So I did a lot of videos on that. Everyone should do the thing that he was good at before Bitcoin and just apply that on a Bitcoin standard.
That's exactly that. Yeah, sure. That's exactly what I say all the time.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
You come already with a lot of skills and experience, and you need to kind of adapt that into the Bitcoin world.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I do.
Yeah. That's the best.
Communications and marketing and content and all that stuff before. So now I come prepared.
Yeah.
I just bring it into Bitcoin.
Exactly. And so I did that, many thousands of hours of videos. But eventually I got a bit, not tired of the economics, but I wanted to explore something new.
What kind of videos were you making?
Back, the YouTube channel was called The World Crypto Network.
You speaking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Me speaking, doing some audiobooks, talking about economic principles.
Okay.
And then got into the tech side, right? Made tutorials on how to use different softwares.
So hold on. What's the name of the YouTube channel?
World Crypto Network.
So it's still still up and running?
It's still up. And I think this was a network of a bunch of different creators. It started in 2012, back when crypto meant cryptography. Right? The tagline of the event was like Tor, PGP, and Bitcoin, something like this.
Yeah.
So it really was like a lot of cool people got together. And especially, I fell in love with that channel during SegWit and No2X, because there were just hours and hours and hours of roundtables of amazing people talking about the details of what was going on, what this consensus change was about, why hard forks are a bad idea, why small blocks might actually be beneficial compared to large blocks, etc. So this really taught me so much, and then I wanted to kind of give back and join the network, doing a bunch of videos there. Yeah.
I have to go watch that channel. Now you made me so curious. And I already have thousands of hours of study into Bitcoin, but I always want to learn more. It's a never-ending thing, and
the
I
rabbit
love
hole
it.
goes deep. Yeah.
I know. I don't sleep enough because I consume so much Bitcoin content. But I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah.
What's that?
Then you make the content too. So
and
you're
then
just
I make
adding
the
to
content
the problem.
too. I know. Fucking hell. What did I do?
Yeah.
You're the Voice is brought to you by Treasury, the original Bitcoin hardware wallet company pioneering the development of self-custody for crypto assets since 2013, empowering individuals with an open-source device, enabling beginners and experts to easily and securely hold their coins. I find my Trezor super easy to use and recommend it to my friends and family. Enjoy my 5% discount on Trezor products by clicking the link in the show notes and using the code FLAT. Self-custody is powerful, but what if someone forces you to unlock your wallet? Bitcoin settles instantly, and that freedom can also be a risk. BitVault is the first Bitcoin wallet built to protect against both physical attacks and digital hacks. It creates a banking-grade vault on-chain with 2 of 3 multi-sig, time-delayed transactions, 2 hours to 15 days, giving you space to react, trustless recovery after 1 year, works with trusted hardware wallets, open source, and built with one focus, beyond keys, protecting humans. Only 42 lifetime subscriptions are available at $199 forever. Head over to bitvault.sv to sign up and use code FLAT for 10% off.
And then I went meeting the people who built the software, right? So I made a lot of interviews similar to what we're doing now. Not much in person. Actually, sometimes at conferences. I did a lot of in-person shows. And there I just met a bunch of new cool people, made a lot of friendships, and learned who those people are who are building these awesome tools, and realized that they're way in above their head and they need help. Right? And also realized that...
What kind of help?
That's the thing. I first thought that you need to be a developer, a programmer in order to help for free software. And I'm not, right? Never have been. But there's so much other stuff that needs to be done, right? Educating people about it, right? Writing documentation, doing the marketing, going on stage, doing the product management, like what are the bugs, what are the features? Let's coordinate a call to discuss it and fix it, right? All of these things, all the other stuff is essential for building software.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just stuck around and did that for the projects that I used myself.
Very good. Yeah, I've been doing that for 20 years, being around tech, but just not developing. I have a computer science degree and I was a programmer for a few years, but very quickly I realized that I have no passion of creating the code. There are some people that come to the office every morning and they literally tell their friends that they had a dream about the algorithm and now I know how to do the engine for gaming, and I'm like, they're so excited. And I look at them and I say, what weirdos, like they love it, they get so much joy out of it and I don't. So I love tech, but not like that. So I shouldn't be doing this. I should be doing more of the other stuff, like you said. There is so much to do around technology companies that is not writing the code itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So scratch your own itch, do the things that you're really passionate about, the thing that you're marginally best at, as economists would say, and then trade with others. It's the beauty of the division of labor. We don't need to do everything all the time. We can specialize on the things that we're really, really good at, not compared to others, compared to yourself. Right? You're more excited about one topic rather than the other. Then go with the one you're more excited about. And trade with those who are more excited about the other things. And that just increases the pie, the cake of capital, as much as we want. Right? Humans are value creation machines. We don't stop with that. Right? That's incredible.
Awesome. Okay. And what about today? What do you do today?
Still the same. Building freedom tech. That's, I guess, the tagline. And not so much anymore in Bitcoin. To some extent, I think we've solved the money problem, right? And I mean that's a big claim, But I think we have inflation-resistant, censorship-resistant, fully anonymous base money in cyberspace. That's a thing we have now. It's fucking unreal if you think about that, right?
It is.
It's like cypherpunks have been wanting this for 40 years, and finally we have it, and it's good enough. Right? Sure, we can make it better on 1,001 different factors, and we are, right? A lot of people are working on this.
Yeah.
But I've spent like the last, 7-8 years or something working on this problem. And so I'm a bit curious for other things that we can do.
How is it fully anonymous today?
CoinJoins fixes this. That's
Okay.
the gist, right? So that's the project I worked on quite long.
Can you just give 1 or 2 sentences about what CoinJoin is for those who don't know?
Yeah, CoinJoin is a collaborative Bitcoin transaction. Right? So instead of making your own transaction alone by yourself, now let's say you have two inputs, coins that you received in the past, and 2 outputs. One goes to the merchant whom you're buying the pizza from. The other is your change address back. That's a regular transaction, how most of us are doing it. But that's a very small transaction. So there's no crowd to hide in, meaning people see that, hey, these 2 coins on new addresses, which we thought belonged to different people, actually belong to the same persons. Right? Because we can say that multiple inputs of a transaction belong to the same person. And then we can see which of the outputs they're going to ultimately. So that has been a problem since the white paper. Right? This was one of the first responses that Satoshi got, is the system does not scale because it is not private. Right? Everyone has to verify every transaction of everyone else. And we have a clear linkage from inputs to outputs if we have a really small transaction. Right? But the realization is that we don't have to be alone when we make a Bitcoin transaction. We can team up with hundreds of others of people and create this transaction that has 300 inputs, 300 outputs, right? Where you yourself have, let's say, 3 inputs, 2 outputs, right? But nobody knows which of these inputs belong to the same person or which of these inputs paid which of these outputs. Because fundamentally, Satoshi gave us a perfectly private system inside a single transaction. There is no real cryptographic link that the Satoshi from the first output moved to the third output.
Okay.
Right? Satoshis get destroyed on the input side and they magically appear on the output side again. They get teleported from left to right. They don't flow. Right? And so this means we just need to increase the size of transaction, meaning the number of inputs and outputs. And if we are a little bit smart with the amounts that we're choosing for inputs and outputs, then we have a pretty private system. So now with Wasabi Wallet, it's very easy, fully automated to use Bitcoin privately. Just need to receive and wait and spend.
And this is for on-chain,
Yeah.
not for Lightning.
Yeah, Lightning is the kind of second approach to make Bitcoin more private by not telling everyone about the transactions that you make. And so not telling people is very good to be private. That's off-chain. If we do need to tell people, if we do need to make an on-chain transaction, then at least tell it in a crowd. Right? So either increase the size of the crowd or decrease the amount of data that you tell to others. Right? Lightning is that second approach.
And Trezor also have CoinJoin in there.
Yeah, that's my special connection to Trezor. Like they already back in 2019, like 3 years after we started Wasabi, they were like, hey, this is amazing tech. It's cypherpunk as fuck. Let's go build it.
Because I remember it from the dashboard, like from the tool, the suite. I can just click CoinJoin on a transaction and we'll send it through CoinJoin.
Yeah, we thought it's going to be easy, right? Like 2 weeks and we have a prototype, sure. Turned out like 5 years later, it still wasn't solved. It was actually a really nasty problem. And back when we started it, we realized that the Bitcoin consensus rules as they are now don't enable us to securely sign a multi-party CoinJoin transaction on a offline hardware wallet device. Right? There was a trick that your laptop could trick the hardware wallet into signing a transaction where you're losing money and you wouldn't know it. Right? And that's what Trezor wants to avoid, that you can have a malicious laptop, but your funds are still secure.
Right.
And that security assumption was broken in multi-party transactions. Right? And so we needed to fix that. And for that, we actually needed to contribute to Bitcoin Core and Taproot. Right? So in the Taproot upgrade proposal, like before this was finalized and merged, we realized that this problem exists and that it would still not be solved in the Taproot upgrade itself. So the Trezor engineers found a genius solution to the problem and proposed to adjust the Taproot soft fork to include a fix for this. right? And after some review and discussion, we actually got that merged. And so we changed the Taproot proposal to then, after Taproot was activated, to allow a multi-party transaction to be signed on an offline device. Right? And that's useful for CoinJoins, that's useful for Lightning Network. So that was a pretty cool achievement, actually.
It is super cool. And okay, and let's talk a bit about Wasabi then, because lately there has been, Wasabi was in the headlines, unfortunately. What is the status with Wasabi today? And I'm also asking you about the actual action of trying to prosecute them, where there's a deeper debate there about their prosecution. Can you prosecute someone for developing a tool that enables an action that you haven't taken, but someone else using your tool has taken, right? Can you talk a bit about that and what has happened? And many people probably don't know what happened with Wasabi at all. So if you want to give some background about that.
Yeah, cypherpunks have been under legal fire since forever, right? Phil Zimmermann, back in the day, the inventor of PGP, he almost got locked up for like multiple lifetimes probably, or 40 years or something ridiculous, for publishing source code, right, on how to encrypt securely. And the argument was that, hey, this is munition. Bad guys might be using it, so why are you exporting this powerful technology to our enemies, right? They might use it. And of course that... might sound interesting at first glance, but if you think deeper, that's just code. That's just speech, right? And you can literally print this code in a book, right, and transport the book across borders. And is that really transporting ammunitions, right? If we prevent the publication of books, are we really in a free society? And so the same continued to happen. Like for anything that provides privacy to the everyday person, that's all of a sudden quite an undesirable thing to do, because there are people who want to violate the security and privacy of individuals, because if people are spied upon, they're very easy to steal from. Right? And if people have secure encryption and other privacy-preserving technologies, all of a sudden theft becomes no longer profitable. Right? And that is something that the thief does not like. And so unfortunately, cypherpunks since forever have unjust legal prosecution for their activism, for their belief that humans have a right to just be left alone, right? And to use their property as they see fit. And so we founded the company in 2017, and since the very early times of that company, we got nasty letters, asking us, well, what are you doing there? And are you sure you want to continue doing that? And so,
Are you sure?
Are you sure? Are you really sure? And then these types of soft attacks escalated, both in their extent and in the frequency.
Right.
Our contributors got kidnapped at the border, right? Put into a room, told, hey, what are you doing? Tell us all your passwords, etc. Bank accounts were shut down, not just of the people working on the tech, right, but on their wife as well, or their parents, right? Addresses were doxed on where people are living. That our company was closed because the jurisdiction all of a sudden, even though we had legal statings that this is a legal business and not a money transmitter, all of a sudden the jurisdiction says, no, we think you're actually a transmitter, money transmitter, so you can take us to court, right? Or you can ignore us, but it's better if you leave, right? So all these types of attacks continued, and 2, 3, 4, 5 letter agencies kept writing us nasty messages. And then other projects got kidnapped, right? So the founders of Tornado Cash, which is a privacy-preserving technology on Ethereum, also non-custodial, right? And then eventually Samurai Wallet, right? Another Bitcoin CoinJoin software. That just continued to escalate. So we eventually said that, hey, for the safety of our contributors, we have to close down the company and stop providing the service. The good thing is that it's just an idea. It's just code. It's just software. And that software was published and it works. Right? It's a functional tool. And it's very easy and very cheap to operate. You can run a CoinJoin coordination service on a $5 a month virtual private server, right? On a Raspberry Pi somewhere that you put in the forest. So it's quite difficult to actually stop people from using the software because it's just code, right? It's just an app that people run on their phone. And so people do still. So Wasabi as a software continues. It's much more resilient now than when we were still running it.
Right.
And private transactions continue to exist on Bitcoin.
Amazing. Because that's one of the first things that you hear people say about Bitcoin, or people that are into crypto but not Bitcoin. It's like, Bitcoin is not anonymous. It's not private. Well, it can be, depending how much you want to learn and implement it.
Yeah.
But it can be. Tired of feeling like your freedom and future are fading away? Do you live in a country with growing inflation, crazy housing prices, weird culture, and a chaotic economy? You're not alone, and my friend Mikkel Thorpe and his team at Expat Money can help. Mikkel is the world's leading expat consultant on a mission to free you from broken systems. He's been an expat for 25 years, lived in 9 different countries, and has helped hundreds of people with second residencies and passports, offshore banking, international investing, and many other essential tools. If you're serious about protecting your wealth and your family, it's not enough to hope things will get better. You need a plan B in another country. The team at Expat Money can help you build it legally, safely, and without wasting years of research. Visit expatmoney.com/efrat and leave your details for a follow-up. In a world hypnotized and sleepwalking towards totalitarian control and digital enforcement, awakened voices rise to inspire change and radiate hope. In December 2024, I had the honor of hosting Professor Matthias Desmet at a conference I produced called New Totalitarian Order. This masterclass is now recorded and available to watch. The conference explores the psychology behind global mass processes, offering a behind-the-scenes look at science, economics, and human potential. It addresses challenging global agendas, mass formation, transhumanism, consciousness, societal change, and the path to transformation. Click the link in the show notes to access 3.5 hours of exclusive presentations, in-depth content, and my fireside chat with Professor Desmet. Use my code EFRAT for 10% off. I hope you find great value in it.
And the difficult thing was just to make it easy and cheap for it to be private, right? So that it just works in the background. That's the really, really difficult part. And I'd argue that's the main innovation of Wasabi.
Right.
We just made it the default on every layer, right? Like we integrated the Tor network. So we hide your IP address from any outside computer.
Right.
It uses block filters. So you can find out how much money is on your addresses without sending your addresses to some third-party computer. Right? And we made CoinJoin so efficient on the blockchain that it was so cheap that we can just do it automatically in the background. Right? So you really just need to install Wasabi, receive money, send money, and you're good. There's no extra steps required other than a bit of patience in between the sending and receiving.
Right. What do you say to the ridiculous claim that people use sometimes about privacy? I don't have anything to hide.
Well, if you really have nothing to hide, you're just a very boring person. You know, we all have things that we don't want the entire world to know.
Yes.
Yeah, there's like you speak different to your partner.
Why do you think
late
people
at
say
night.
that?
Well, because they were told it many times, right? This is just part of the propaganda and the
Right.
mind control, I think.
It's a programming.
Yeah, it's an external
Okay.
programming that just a lie, a bold lie repeated so often and
Yes.
so frequently that we all just assume it is the case.
And it's also a form of giving up on your life because it's like, yeah, you know, they already know everything about me.
Yeah.
What do I have to hide?
Yeah,
When did you stop caring about your life?
yeah,
Right? Yeah, maybe they know a lot, but
Yeah.
don't you care? Like,
Yeah.
don't you want a better world? Don't you want to build something good for your kids?
yeah.
That's what I think.
And it's also that we oftentimes are too paranoid and overestimate our adversary. They actually don't know so much.
Right.
Right? Like it's still quite expensive and costly to do a serious surveillance attack. And especially when you use the technology that are at our disposal, it becomes extremely difficult and expensive to find out the details that they would be interested in. right? So
They have to have a really good reason to really come after you, like surveil you in a very targeted way, right?
And there is a praxeology to violence, right? So to say, a cost-benefit analysis to the attacker.
Yes.
An attacker is just an entrepreneur, right? He has costs in his production, and then he has revenues, right? The cost would be, to buy surveillance equipment, to buy a gun, right? To buy the diesel for the car that goes to your house and steals your stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And then there is a revenue, right? Which is the loot that he gets, the things that he steals from you. And if his costs are larger than his revenue, he's not profitable. An unprofitable attacker is soon going bankrupt and will just disappear. Right? So the attacker, the adversary, must be profitable for him to continue to make sense, for him to continue to exist. Mm-hmm. And so if we increase the cost of attack, right, while simultaneously decreasing the cost of defense, right, then we make it much cheaper to protect a more valuable asset, and then we will make theft simply impractical, uneconomical.
Not economical, just like we hope to do with wars.
Yeah, exactly. Right. If we take away the money printer, right, if we take away confiscation of assets, of people, right, all of a sudden they can't print money to pay the people who conscribe soldiers and kidnap them to the front line. Right? If that economics doesn't play out anymore, then we're back like 300-400 years ago, where if the king ran out of gold, he couldn't pay salaries of his soldiers, and they just left. Right? And then the king stands alone on the battlefield, and he'll shit his pants.
And let me add for you another vector to this horrible loop of war funding, which unfortunately I think about more from time to time because my home is on fire and is in war. So another vector would be the incentive structure in place to encourage war is also the Build Back Better ethos. As long as governments and global organizations have this mindset of, if something is ruined, we will build it back better. And by the way, it's a name of a program of the United Nations. So I haven't made it up. You can Google it and you'll find a Wikipedia entry about it. Not that I trust Wikipedia, but it exists, right? So there is a program for the United Nations called the Build Back Better program. And it's a program that is being enacted every time there is a disaster or emergency or a war or, any kind of event that will justify to then pull out the emergency program and start planning what we're going to build where this was destroyed. And so if you just stop and think deeply about this concept for a second, you would understand that this whole plan would not be created if it would not be based on the basic assumption that something is going to be destroyed, that there are emergencies, that there are all these natural disasters, that there are these inorganic disasters that are happening, and wars. And so war is another input into that program that helps keep the fire burning in this ethos of mankind and humanity that, it's a normal thing to just have wars that will be creating more destruction and will be creating more deaths, and we would have to enter and then rebuild whatever was broken, and we will have to rebuild it better. And, I am seeing this with my very eyes where I come from. Gaza is more than 80%, I think it's 86% of the actual territory as rebel right now. How do you rubble, right? It's all concrete and rubble. You have to build it. There is no choice. Who will come in? Big government contractors, BlackRocks, they will come in and they will rebuild it, and there will be a lot of money involved in that. Israel, the moment October 7th happened, they declared this whole area, what's called the Gaza envelope, which is the area around the Gaza Strip. They declared it as a new territory. They gave it a name. They gave it a brand. It was called the Resurrection Island. They just gave it a brand straight away, and they associated budget with it straight away for building back better. And it's a recurring theme. Every time they go into war or a project or a disaster, they pull out the money printer and it's like, here's more money to build better. And we will, by coincidence, right, we will make this a green island as well, so that it will be all sustainable energy projects. And let's bring Elon Musk to look at that area. And they did. This is real. And to envision how we can build like electric vehicles stations in this area, and how we can put solar panels, now we can put wind, blah, blah. You know, it's like, it's a whole industry.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't get, that, you know, you have so many incentive structures built around destruction and around death and around wars that will just keep this cycle going unless you start fixing the money.
Yeah.
Right? And then maybe you can come in here and help me. How does a new form of money help battle this?
Yeah. The French economist Friedrich Bastiat, I think, coined the term the broken window fallacy, which talks about exactly this.
Tell
right?
me.
The analogy is that we have a baker, right? He has a house where he bakes the bread.
Right.
And that house has windows, right?
Yes.
Now a guy comes along, takes a stone, throws it through the window, it shatters, right? And the economist comes along and says, like, that's great. Now we have new jobs for the glassmaker.
Yeah.
Right? How awesome is that? Now the glassmaker gets to produce a new glass, the baker gets to pay him. You know, now the glassmaker can feed his family. That's awesome. We have more jobs, more GDP. That's great. That's a very short-sighted, like short-term thinking analysis. Because what actually happened is that the baker had savings, right? He wanted to use those savings to have a good time with his family, right? Go on a vacation, or maybe buy a second oven to produce more bread, right? Or something like this. And now, because someone broke his window, he has to use his capital for something that he would not have done otherwise. The window was perfectly fine beforehand. He didn't need a new window. He didn't want that, right? But he had to now prioritize something that he didn't want to prioritize, actually. And so this is not that the glassmaker all of a sudden is more profitable out of nothing, right? It's that the capital was reallocated away from the baker towards the glassmaker, right? So this is a reallocation of capital. We don't create more capital, we just shift it from one pocket to the other, right? So we're basically destroying it, right? Because that glass was working before and now it no longer is. So that's just pure destruction.
Absolutely.
Right? And another great book on this is War is a Racket. From 1930, I forgot the name of the author, but after the First World War, he's basically talking about the military-industrial complex and how this is just a pure mafia that is there to reallocate resources from peaceful people to the war machinery. Right? You can think of it like all of those, fighter jets, etc. They were produced 30 years ago, right? So your parents' tax money were stolen to pay for the creation of those fighter jets. And now someone throws a bomb at them and destroys them. So the tax money stolen from you today pays for the bombs that destroys the thing that was funded by your tax money from your parents. Right? So it's a pure destruction scheme. And obviously, right, common sense is clear on this, that when you destroy something, that's not good, right? That's not a benefit to society. You literally broke it, right? And it is, however, not a net negative entirely, right? There are some people that greatly benefit from this, as obviously the state, right? And obviously the military-industrial complex, and obviously the big corporations that get then pulled in to do the reconstruction. And so it's a further centralization of capital and centralization of power, right? So how can a better money fix this? The problem is ultimately, right, with taxation, where the wars are only funded with taxation, either direct confiscation of money, right, or assets, or via indirect taxation of inflation. Right? And specifically that last part. Inflation is just the kicker. Now you can print paper and say, no, I have money to pay the soldiers, to pay for the bombs, etc. You didn't have it before, but because you had the money printer and you could very cheaply produce this monetary asset, that difference between the production cost and the market value of the money, that's the seigniorage.
Yes,
right?
seigniorage income.
Exactly. If that's why nobody's producing the 1 cent anymore. Because it costs like 7 cents to produce 1 cent.
Right.
So if you were printing 1 cent pieces, you're actually losing money, right? The state's not in the business of losing money. They want to make money.
Right.
So that's why they print $100 paper, right? Because it costs 17 cents to produce $100. There's $99+ of seigniorage here. And if you go into the digital creation of base money, right? Then you don't even have the 17 cents to produce the one paper. You just have some basic electricity cost.
Such a good
right?
business.
It's a great business, right? And you can one click and you get trillions of dollars and you can send them to whichever accounts you want. So the senior rush here is staggering, absolutely staggering. Numbers that we cannot even comprehend. And it's so easy, so cheap, so fast for the government and its cronies to print the money that of course they will do it, of course. So how could we make a stop to that? Simply stop using the fiat currencies.
Okay.
Right? Because the demand for the money sets the price ultimately, right? Price is supply and demand. They're increasing the supply, right? So eventually the value of the currency goes down.
Of course.
And we can accelerate that by one, print more fiat, which the government doesn't need any help on that regard. They're doing that just fine. But we can accelerate by decreasing the demand. Stop using fiat. It's literally used to kill people, right? And now, thankfully, we have a cheap, easy to use, open and free alternative. It's called Bitcoin. Get a wallet, right? Trade with Vexel or some other peer-to-peer way to get out of fiat, right? And hold your wealth in an asset that cannot be inflated, that cannot be stolen, and where nobody can stop you to resist the warmongering going on by every nation on this planet. It's a moral imperative. It's a strategic imperative, right? To put everything that you can in front of this war machine. And, back in the days, you need to stand in front of a tank in Tiananmen Square.
Yes.
Right, to show your protest. And you die, right? That's not a very profitable protest. What Bitcoin enabled us is to have a peaceful protest that's profitable. You just need to hold Bitcoin and you increase your purchasing power, your capital, simply by saving your money, right? It's the
and you're
universe
revolutionizing on the way.
Yeah, it's the universe showing you that, hey, a peaceful life is better. If you live the peaceful life
love it.
And you don't let yourself be stolen to fund endless war, you'll get rich. Who would have thought?
People, do you get why I love Bitcoin? Because of this. Max, this is genius. I love it.
It really is, like, it's magical.
I love it.
It's just the incentives are aligned all the way around for the creation of a much more peaceful and prosperous society.
So you see, when people ask me, why are you so passionate about this Bitcoin thing? I tell them, they think it's because, I invest and I make money. Yeah, that's great. That's a beautiful adverse reaction of the phenomena. But the main and the key reason why I am in Bitcoin is because I get to opt out of fiat.
Yeah.
And I love that. Yeah. I feel like such a rebel when I am not in fiat, when I minimize my fiat to the bare minimum, what I really just need for my taxes and my whatever, my business, my bills, whatever. But I want to be on Bitcoin as much as I can because of that, specifically what you said. This is great.
Yeah. And it's so easy nowadays. Like, I've met people who since 2012, don't have a bank account. They just travel the world with Bitcoin. Right? Occasionally, they trade their Bitcoin for cash. Right? And I've been doing this since 2019. Right? I finished my university and I quit my bank account. And it actually works, yeah.
But I want to also talk to you about cash, because a lot of my audience are people that have woken up during COVID because of what the state have done to them. And they understand that the state is not an entity to be trusted. They understand how the government is hurting their rights, but sometimes they're too lazy to do the work on learning what money is. And so they don't understand what inflation is, and they don't understand how cash is not, I repeat, it is not the solution. Yeah, I love cash just as you love it because it's a form of private fiat. So it's better than digital fiat, because it does give you a level of privacy, but cash is still fiat. And you need to understand what's fiat.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Max has been saying here, right?
Yeah.
Like, cash is not the king. It can never be.
Cash is the least bad option
Exactly.
of fiat, right? For one, it's a bare asset, right? So you can hold it.
Right.
You have full control over it. Once you have it, it's very difficult to take it away from you, especially if someone is not close to you. And then it also is actual base money, right? Which is important. Base money is not an investment. It's not a debt contract. It's not an obligation of someone else to pay you later. It's the thing itself. It's like a chunk of gold coin. Right, you have it in your hand. It's like a Bitcoin UTXO. You have the keys, right?
Yes.
That's the equivalent of the physical paper currency.
Yes.
Right? Now, what you can do is you can take your paper currency and put it to a money warehouse, a bank, right? And they will give you a credit somewhere on an online banking system, right? Where you see now $100 were deposited or whatever. But that $100 that you see on the screen is not equivalent to the physical paper. It's an obligation of the bank to give you back $100 in cash later, right? And the crazy thing is that, I mean, obviously they can not give it back to you, right? So it's custodial, there's the trust aspect. But even worse, they have the legal right, the legal possibility that you give them $100, right? And they turn around and hand out $100,000 to other people.
Yeah.
Right? So inflation is an increase of the money supply, right? And so as any dollar that you hold in a bank increases the money supply by 100x, right? Because the reserve requirement is 1% or less.
Fractional reserve.
Exactly. And so if you need to hold fiat, right, then holding it in cash physically by yourself is better.
Absolutely.
Because it decreases the money supply by 100x, right? So that is the least unethical way to deal with fiat. It's still unethical, right? Because you're stealing from billions of people.
And not just unethical, but also a bit silly because you're being debased when you're holding large amounts of fiat.
And like that's, this point is so scary because sure, you get debased, right? If you're holding fiat, if you earn fiat, you get this newly created money later than all the banks, governments, big corporations before you. They get the newly created money first. So they literally are stealing from you, right?
Yeah.
They take your capital away.
Yeah.
That's bad, right? You don't want to be stolen from.
Yeah.
But here is where the devilish trick comes in. You're not the last one in this chain, right? There's literally billions of people behind you, children not even born yet, that in a decade or more will receive the same newly created money that you're holding right now. They will receive it later. And guess what? You're stealing from them too. That's the most evil part of fiat, is it tricks us into stealing from others without even knowing or realizing that.
Yes, and it's not you to blame, obviously, but just a call to action to go and learn more about fiat so that you can start fucking holding Bitcoin.
Yeah. Especially when you realize, hey, that this is how the system works. And there is an alternative that's all around better for everyone, especially for you. What are you waiting for?
Right. And with Bitcoin, they cannot then have the same incentive structures that we've talked about now for creating more violence, more destruction, more wars.
Yeah.
I mean, that they will continue doing that for some centuries, but
let's see.
Yeah, what do you think it's gonna look like when the world transitions to a real Bitcoin standard?
I think we're already starting to see it.
Okay.
Like Bitcoin is the 5th largest currency.
Okay.
Right? There's the Japanese yen, the Chinese renminbi, there's the euro, there's the dollar.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's gold. Right? So Bitcoin is like only Bitcoin needs to double or something like this, and it's larger than the yen. It only needs to triple, and it's larger than the dollar. Right? So Bitcoin is a big player. It's no longer a small currency. It's one of the biggest base monies that humans have ever created. It needs to still go up like 10x for it to be bigger than gold. But we can get there, right? So Bitcoin is already bigger than the British pound, the oldest fiat currency around, right? We're much closer to hyper-Bitcoinization than most people realize. And the thing is, it's not evenly distributed. There's some crazy lunatics like myself who are on a native Bitcoin standard already. More and more companies are adopting this as well. And Bitcoin is a small nation, so to say, in regards to the capital that is being saved in this asset. And it's available for anyone to use. You know, it's a much more solid currency than hundreds of other fiat currencies that are out there, and just a little bit smaller than the big boys around. So I don't think it's going to take that long for Bitcoin to be the most liquid medium of exchange on the planet. And at that point, you know, things start to change.
And then how do you think it will look? How would it impact aggressions and wars and violence?
I think the root or the causal consequence of starting to print money is that we misallocate resources. Right? We malinvest them. We build stuff that we don't really need, and we overconsume. Right? We consume more stuff than we actually need. And so ultimately, that just means we're wasting capital.
Yes.
And capital is the kernel of civilization. We need to have savings and capital to build the machine that builds the machine that builds the things that we actually want. Right? So more capital is a lot more better. And with fiat, entrepreneurs are tricked to misallocating their resources into something that's actually not profitable, something that actually decreases their capital stock. And so with Bitcoin, so many businesses now start to realize that, hey, I'm not actually profitable. Right? Every year I have less and less Bitcoin. And so maybe I should invest into something else. Right? And now we have the new batch of companies that see Bitcoin as their hurdle rate of like, hey, I want to have more Bitcoin every year. And if I don't, then I should stop, and not invest in those same things that cost me more money than they produce. So Bitcoin will help us to shift the mentality of what should we allocate our resources on? What are the problems that need to be solved? And it seems that currently we're just not, we're not solving the problems that we should solve. We're solving things that are completely out of whack. Like, I don't know, for example, decreasing the carbon emissions of the planet. Like, that's a ludicrous thing to spend your money on.
Ludicrous.
When it's so clear that it's just destroying everything that you have. It's like putting your capital on fire and then you have nothing left and you're poor, right, and starving.
Yeah.
So we should focus our efforts on much more practical, real things that actually alleviate problems of humans. And I think Bitcoin will teach entrepreneurs to be much more careful with what they invest in. And probably a lot of people realize that, hey, I shouldn't invest in anything right now. That's why so many people start to hold Bitcoin. To hold money, to save money, is the opposite of investing. Right? You're basically telling every entrepreneur that, no, I don't want to invest in your business. I don't want to give you equity or debt. Right? I want to hold my capital such that I have the flexibility to invest in whatever I want in the future. Right? To save money is to remove the uneasiness or the uncertainty of what you need in the future. And right now, all the Bitcoin hodlers are telling the merchants, the marketplace, to do better. You're not solving the problems that I think you should be solving. So I'm going to save my capital. And maybe in the future, when you get your act together, when you build something that's actually meaningful and useful for me, then I might invest. Then I might buy your product.
Lovely. Such a good way to put it. It educates the market in this indirect way.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Okay, Max, what do you think about the Treasury companies that are popping like mushrooms after the rain?
Bitcoin is good for anyone, right? And if you have a company and you're not holding Bitcoin, then you're just losing capital again, right? And if Bitcoin is your asset and your accounting asset, then you realize that a lot of your investments are not good. And again, you should stop investing and you should save money. Of course, if you hold dollars or any fiat coin, then that capital is just going to waste. So better hold it in a sound asset that cannot be inflated. So on that front, makes sense as a company to hold your treasury in Bitcoin. And I guess there is this nuance of a lot of companies go into debt in order to acquire more Bitcoin, right? And this is what's known as the speculative attack. You go into debt, meaning you increase the fiat money supply, right? And you get the newly created fiat. And now, meaning, again, you steal from a bunch of people, right? So that's maybe not the best thing to do. And now you reallocate this money to Bitcoin, right? So, which means the Bitcoin price goes up, right? Arguably. And since you increase the fiat money supply, that price goes down. And then 10 years later, you can pay back the much more deflated fiat-denominated loan with much more valuable Bitcoin. So it seems economically like quite a sound strategy. I'm personally not the biggest fan of increasing the money supply, even if it's at my own benefit. So I personally am not doing this. But on the other hand, maybe it hastens the demise of fiat.
Yeah.
And that might be quite a beneficial thing to the economy. But ultimately, leveraging up on Bitcoin doesn't seem like a very valuable thing to do. I would much rather build useful products than do some financial engineering.
And speaking of building, what are you building today?
Well, one thing I'm really excited about is Nostr.
Okay.
This is the big problem that needs to be fixed after the money problem, which again, I think we have almost figured out.
Okay.
So speech is the other huge problem, right?
Yes.
We need a protocol for collaborating and communicating with each other.
Yes.
Right? A protocol that's open for anyone to build, for anyone to use, right? And that simply cannot be a closed source, centralized platform like X. Right? That's ludicrous to have one guy in control of who can have an account, who can share his message with others, and having an opaque, closed algorithm that decides what you see. Right? That's crazy. So I think this is a market ripe for disruption, by a new protocol that is open for anyone to use, and makes it easy to build new applications on top of that. And a little bit like Bitcoin, right? How hard is it to create your own bank? Like insane, right? How easy is it to write a Bitcoin wallet? You can do it in an afternoon by now with all that developer tooling. And the same goes for Nostr, right? How hard is it to write an alternative interface to Twitter, right, or X, that maybe has a different algorithm? It's impossible, right? You cannot do it. Or at the very least, you need to have a whole bunch of permissions, right, and special API keys and whatnot, and which can be revoked at any time, right? So it's not rational to build a company or a business on this quicksand that can be rocked from under you at any time. Nostr is the complete opposite.
Okay.
Right? You can now extremely easily, like in an afternoon, create a new interface that shows a social experience as you would like, and you can download all of the data that was built by or created by other people, and so the first user of your application has a useful experience because he sees all of the posts of other people, right? And this beats the very entrenched network effect. Because of the open data set that Nostr provides. Right? So you can connect to any relay, download the interesting data, and see what your friends are up to. And you can take your identity, right, your friends, the posts that you made, the posts that they made, and just move from one app to the next. And that is next level. Right? But it extends much more than just the Twitter or X use case of some short form posts or long blog posts. The so cool thing is that we have an open standardization body where if you want to make a novel application that introduces a new feature set, you don't have to wait for anyone else to give you permission to build it. You just define the standard, you ship your code, and now other developers can see that standard and integrate it in their applications. Right? So, but each of these has private public key cryptography as the identity layer. Right? It has a decentralized network of relays for data storage and retrieval. It has a clear, standardized, uncorruptible way of making sure that we can verify what other people are saying. So you can do crazy cool stuff with this. Like, for example, one of my favorite Nostr apps is Zapstore. Right? This is an app store for Android that makes publishing software unstoppable. Right, where you no longer have to beg Apple or Google to please give me a developer account. Please, can I push this update to my users? And then they say, no, we think that meeting in person is reckless activity. Right? That's what they say for Vexel. That's why Vexel didn't have an iOS update in a long time, because Apple says, no, you're not going to ship this feature.
My computer says no.
Yeah, exactly. Not even the computer, like some random bureaucrat
it's a company,
at the Apple company does it. It's unreal. So we can just make that obsolete. You can verify the signature of this application yourself. You can see that all of my friends are using this application. They've made a cryptographic signatures on it as well. So this is a real app. This is a good app. I'm going to use it. And you just download it.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's so many great use cases. And Blossom, for example, that is a way to host media like pictures, videos,
in a
software
decentralized
releases
way.
in a similar decentralized way as Nostr does it for text. So the amount of use cases is absolutely staggering. I hope your podcast is on Podcasting 2.0 as well.
It's on Fountain, of course.
Exactly. Right?
Of course it is. When people, if you don't know, go download Fountain and listen to my podcast on Fountain, and you can stream for yourself. You can get sats for listening.
Yeah. And like that's the thing, right? We tried to get Bitcoin payments integrated to Twitter. Right? People wrote like extensions that pull the Lightning address from the Twitter bio, like we hacked it together. Even Jack tried to do it officially in the Twitter stack. Then Elon bought it and just scrapped that project.
Yeah.
Right? So it was the pain in the ass to begin with, and then when we even had
he has to do his own thing.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
has to now roll out the app of everything with the money of X. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But what if you don't want to use that? Then you can do nothing about it.
Yeah.
Well, on Nostr, you just build things, right? You can just do things. And so we build a way to send and receive Bitcoin so that your friends see what's the stuff that you like. And that's a social signal that's not just likes and reposts, right? But a real monetary cost of, hey, I value this thing. And Gigi has the perfect line of, you wouldn't sap a car crash, right? Car crashes are something you just have to look at. when it happens. You don't really want to see it, but your attention is drawn to it. You're somewhat tricked by your brain to actually look at it.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't send money to it,
no.
right? For how great it is. So we have a car crash economy or attention seeking in the legacy social media.
Absolutely.
That makes you see stuff that you don't really want to see. But you're forced to look at it because the algorithm chooses to maximize for your attention. And in Nostr, we can simply make that obsolete. And we can build, for example, algorithm that don't take attention as the thing to maximize, but money. Right? Only show me the posts that receive the most amount of money.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a very simple algorithm that all of a sudden shows you quite high signal content. And it's not the only algorithm. That's the cool thing.
Yeah.
We can just experiment 100 different ones.
Algorithms. I love Nostr. And I always encourage my audience to go and open a Nostr account. Just search on my Twitter feed the word Nostr, and you'll see all my posts about Nostr and my NPub, and then you can follow me there. And Max, obviously, you have a lot of followers on Nostr.
Well, it
depends on the app, right?
Nostr, yeah, that too. Nostr is still a very small protocol.
Yeah.
Right? And so the network effect is small, but there's high signal. Right? Yeah. So there's cool people that follow me, which is great.
Uh-huh.
And it's a little bit similar to how you have a huge benefit to be an early adopter of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right? All the OGs from 2010, if they held on to their stack, are doing quite fine. Similar things are happening in Nostr. Right? If you're early in Nostr, and we're so super early to Nostr, all of a sudden you can be there first in your niche for this ecosystem, and you grow with the Nostr ecosystem. And so in 10 years, if Nostr actually does what we think it does, and 10 billion people are on it, you were early, and then you will have a large amount of followers and a big impact that you can make. So you might not have a direct financial benefit, just as with Bitcoin, but you have a social benefit by finding cool people and by cool people finding you.
Love it. Okay. And you have something in your pipeline, like coming out on Nostr that I should be aware of?
Yeah, actually, like a lot of amazing cool projects come out in Nostr. And one thing that I'm extremely bullish on is that Nostr had a big problem of direct messaging. Right? We had encryption from the beginning, which is already better than Twitter or Telegram, which are unencrypted. So the server administrator sees exactly who is saying what to whom, which is unreal. So we did have encryption right from the beginning, but anyone could see whom you're sending messages and who is sending you messages. Not what's the content of the message, but who is sending to whom and when and how much. And the NSA kills people with metadata, right? So metadata is a scary thing. And with Nostr, this was just available for the public anytime, right? But the beautiful thing is that cypherpunks have continuously improved the encryption standards. And one of the recent achievements is called the Messaging Layer Security Protocol, MLS. Right? And this is an IETF, Internet Engineering Task Force agency, like big brain cryptographers. They came up with a standard that makes group messages very scalable, fully encrypted. And so this now scales to hundreds of thousands of people in a single group sending encrypted messages. And it's very efficient to add or remove someone, which is actually quite a hard cryptographic protocol or problem. And so we've now managed to take this well-reviewed, security audited standard and put it on Nostr. Meaning that we finally have encrypted group messages where nobody knows who is messaging whom.
That's good.
Yeah.
Is it rolled out yet?
Soon.
In a NIP?
There is a NIP,
There is a
NIP
NIP?
104, I think.
NIP is Nostr Improvement Protocol. Nostr Improvement?
It's actually Nostr implementation possibility.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't have to be an improvement, so to say.
Improvement.
Sometimes it's just a bad idea,
Yeah.
but it's a possibility. Right? So there is an app called White Noise, will be released on the 4th of July, maybe after this episode is published already. And that will be kind of our flagship proposal of, hey, look at this app. This is how you can do secure messaging in Nostr. And hopefully we'll continue building this for many years to come. But what excites me even more is that it's more than just one app. Right? This is a protocol. So we will work diligently to upgrade existing Nostr clients to work with this newer encryption standard. Right? So this will be Primal, Damus, Amethyst, Coracle, Shopster, Plebeian, like a lot of different existing Nostr applications that have happy users will get a massive upgrade in the security of direct messaging.
Yeah.
And they will all be interoperable.
That's
Right?
amazing.
That's so cool.
That's so
Imagine
cool.
if WhatsApp users could write Signal users.
Yeah.
Why not?
What the hell?
It works
That's
with
amazing.
email. Why doesn't it work with direct messaging?
Right.
And with MLS, it actually does. Right? And we want to make it as easy as possible for you or your AI agent to write a new chat interface. Right? So this will hopefully be that we have hundreds, thousands of applications that can talk to each other securely, encrypted, privately, without too much hassle.
I can't wait.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
It's a really cool project.
And what about automation of content on Nostr? I am waiting for that because I want a tool that will help me schedule and put content out there on Nostr without providing my private key to anyone. And I know that that's a challenge.
Yeah, that is. And with Nostr, because it's such a decentralized project, there are solutions for this out already for a while. Like Shipyard, for example, is a way to schedule your posts. The thing is, it's like an MVP, you know? It's really
I've
shitty
tried the
UX.
stuff that is already there and it's not good
enough.
No,
Yeah, I
some
feel
of it
you.
is buggy and it doesn't work for me.
So here at the conference at BTC Prague,
But Primal told me they're working on it.
exactly, Primal announced the Primal Studio, and it's a pro feature for their app that is tailor-made for content producers.
Let's go!
Right. So this Nostr is just so early still, right? So this is for one, have patience.
Yes.
Support your devs.
Yes.
Or just build it yourself, right? If you have an issue in Nostr, maybe that's your calling to build a new business and hopefully make a whole bunch of money by solving the same problem for a bunch of people.
Yes. Not me, but yes, other people.
Someone else do it, please.
Yes. Yes, I'm with you. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I want to ask you about Austrian economy, economics. What is one of the most important principles in Austrian economics that you think people should be aware of? Like, and the biggest thing that differs from Keynesian economy that people believe today and is not true or not the right way to look at things?
I would say the axioms are. There are a couple axioms in Austrian economics that are really groundbreaking. So what's an axiom, first of all? It's an assumption that we start out with and on which we base our logical conclusions later on. Right? You can't start out of nothing. You need to have some things that is your starting point. Alone, this way of thinking has never been part of Keynesian economics or historian school. Right? This is quite unique to Austrian economics. And Ludwig von Mises defined one of the first groundbreaking axioms. There are three that I think are worth mentioning. The first is the human action axiom.
Yes.
Right? Humans act.
Yes.
That means that they have a problem, right? And they perceive that in the future they could solve this problem if they allocate their scarce resources correctly. Right? And that they do. They allocate scarce resources, time, your body, right? Your physical things, to create the tools that solve your problems.
Yeah.
So that is the first important realization, that humans have it in them to creatively solve their own problems. That's the action axiom, so to say. And out of this one axiom, there's a couple others, but out of this one core axiom, we can deduce almost the entire economic thought. Right? We can say, what are the consequences of your actions? Right? We can make statements like, if you add a minimum wage, it will lead to unemployment.
Okay.
Right? That is a praxeologically sound statement, and it is in part based because humans act. Right? But Mises was always very critical that we cannot derive an ought from an is. Right? We can say that it is so, that this leads to unemployment, but we cannot say that that's a good thing or a bad thing. Right? So Mises was of the value-free economics, that we shouldn't put values or put our own perception of values on top of these conclusions. But then later, so Mises came up with this action axiom in the 1930s or 40s, maybe even earlier. Then in the 1980s or so, Hans Hermann Hoppe, a student of Murray Rothbard, who was a student of Mises, Hoppe came with the argumentation axiom, right? Which basically means that humans have it in them to understand truth and to reach to a true conclusion. And now you can say things that, if you would say that, hey, I don't own my body, right? I don't have ownership in my body. That is performatively wrong, because I've just used my body, right? I've controlled it. I've applied my ownership in it to speak the words that I don't own it, which is a logical contradiction, right? So people can argue with each other to come to truth. And if you have some basic reasoning, then you have to agree that, in fact, yes, this is a true statement, right? You do own your body.
Mm-hmm.
And with this one realization of the argumentation axiom, Hoppe deduces in ethics. Right? He did what was thought impossible for thousands of years. He says, no, we can derive an ought from an is. We are free creatures, right? We do own our body. Therefore, theft is bad. Mm-hmm. You ought not to steal. Mm-hmm. That is the truth, right? And this means we have an objective ethics. Right? It is simply bad to steal, full stop, no exceptions. Right? And we have a logical proof to this point now, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And now comes the third axiom, which was just recently introduced, actually, by one of the greatest Bitcoiners alive, called Eric Voskuil. He is the maintainer of the libBitcoin full node implementation, and the author of the fantastic book, Crypto Economics on the Fundamental Principles of Bitcoin. It's the best book written on Bitcoin, period. And it is one of the most groundbreaking achievements in praxeological thought.
And I've not read it. Okay.
Yeah,
Another one to my list. Go on.
And so he introduces the axiom of resistance. Right? Meaning that any security technology can only protect you if you resist an attacker.
Yep.
Right? That security is fundamentally a human problem. No technology can provide you security unless the human wants to be secure and resists an attacker. Right? So you can have your gold stored in a physical vault, thick steel bars with a big lock. You have a guy in front of the vault with a gun, right, and a tank next to him. But then the guy comes in, the adversary, and says, hey, I'd like to have your gold. And you're like, yeah, sure, I'll open the vault for you. Right? You're not resisting this adversary. You're just doing what he wants. Then neither the tank, nor the gun, nor the guy with the gun, nor the vault can protect you.
Yes.
Because you failed the axiom of resistance.
Yes.
Bitcoin and any security technology relies on the axiom of resistance.
Yeah.
So when does Bitcoin fail? When people stop using it and stop resisting an adversary. Right? You cannot be protected by Bitcoin's inflation protection if you say that...
If you give your keys away.
Exactly.
If you're being arrested by someone and and then you just give your keys away and then
then Bitcoin's not secure.
Yeah.
Exactly. If the government says, oh, no, you cannot protect yourself from inflation by holding Bitcoin, 6102.
That's super interesting. So you're saying that the act of resistance is like a basic principle that I've always been fascinated with that one, because I went to the streets 4 or 5 years ago and I always asked myself, what is it that has me resisting something so fundamentally? Like I feel it in my body that I have to say no, that I have to resist something. And it's so interesting to hear that you say that this is a basic principle of Austrian economics.
It's if you don't apply that axiom, the entire security culture falls apart. And I think this is in part what a lot of Austrian economics failed to understand Bitcoin. They're like, oh, the government is just going to ban it.
Right,
and then what?
right. And then you discredit your part in this equation.
Exactly. We assume people will resist the government banning Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin is secure. Right? So Voskuil made this genius realization to clearly articulate how any security technology works. And he, same as with Hoppe or with Mises, he articulates clearly something that we all tacitly assume, but we don't consistently act on that assumption. And by bringing this realization to the forefront and saying this is the concrete starting point, let's assume this is true, and then we deduce on top of that, Mises managed to build an entire school of economic thought. Hoppe managed to build an entire rational objective ethics. And Voskuil managed to build an entire strategic security culture on top of that. So these three are absolute heroes of praxeological thought. So the 3 books, just to make this clear, is Human Action by Ludwig von Mises, Economic Science and the Austrian Method by Hans Hermann Hoppe, and Encrypted Economics, The Fundamental Principles of Bitcoin by Eric Voskuil. All 3 of them available for free online. The first 2 on the Mises Institute, both PDF, EPUB, and audiobook. And the last one on voskuil.org, both the PDF, and I've made the audiobook of it.
You made the audiobook
because it's such a good book. Like, it just had to be.
I can't wait to listen to that.
Yeah. So
oh my God.
Search for Crypto Economics in your favorite podcast app, on Fountain, for example. And you can listen to that. Yeah.
With your calming, soothing voice.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And another book that has had the same impression on me is by the author Paul Rosenberg, called A Lodging of Wayfaring Men.
Okay.
It is a fictional telling based on a true story of a group of early cypherpunks in the 1995 era that built the first anonymous digital currency, the first anonymous marketplace.
Look at that.
The first dispute resolution mechanism. The original project was called Laissez-faire City, and the story tells what these characters went through, right? Why they built the things that they built, and whom they were up against, and what nasty tactics their adversaries used, right? And how they ultimately succeeded in launching a decentralized marketplace.
Look at that.
So this book is fantastic. It's the other audiobook that I produced.
Yes.
Yeah. So very much can recommend reading it.
I'll listen to that too.
That's on the Parallel Society podcast. And this is also where you think about, these guys in 1995.
I know.
And they're
before
just...
Bitcoin was even...
Exactly.
And they can envision that.
Yeah.
Isn't that remarkable that people have that capacity to look so far into the future and create a whole world that doesn't exist yet? It's so beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one that blew my mind even more is from the 1970s, right?
Yeah.
So pre-internet, pre-computers, basically, called VONU. Voluntary, Not Vulnerable, VONU. A search for personal freedom by an anonymous author called Rayo. Right? And he talks about encrypted mesh networks and stuff like this before encryption was a thing, right? So he formalized an applicable metric of success for freedom, right? Which is called the mean time to harassment. Right?
Mean time to harassment?
What's the average time between when you were stolen from, right? Or in other words, when was the last time you were stolen from? The longer this number, the more free you are.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it, that metric.
Yeah. And if you really consistently apply it and you include into theft every time you have to ask for permission.
Yeah.
Then for me, it was, very short ago when I was driving a car and I had to ask for a license plate.
Right.
Right. Or you have to have a driver license.
Right. So many examples.
Yeah. So he went really extreme into actually and honestly increasing this number as much as possible until eventually he just lived in the forest in a tent that he produced. And he got this numbers to years before he had to ask anyone for permission.
Wow. Wow, that is so inspirational and awesome. And I know that some people live like that today. And I really am inspired by them, and whomever can do it, I think they should. I mean, amazing. All right, we're coming to the end of our time. I could have spoken with you for a whole day. I reckon.
A good conversation start 3 hours in.
Seriously, they do. And I think we have to do this again.
For sure.
And I'm so grateful because people came out of this episode with so many good resources to continue learning. So that's excellent. And where should people follow you? Nostr?
Nostr only. Okay. I don't have X anymore.
Anything else?
So just max@towardsliberty.com. You can send me zaps. You can send me notes. You can send me mail. All the stuff goes through there.
So yeah, I reached out to you on Nostr to ask you if you want to be on the pod.
Yes, it works.
That's the only place I found you. And last question. What gives you hope?
That we have the technologies to end slavery in our lifetime. And it's like, that sounds crazy, but it's actually true. Unfortunately, there is a lot of slavery in our lifetime currently. Slavery never really ended. It just changed face a little bit. But the coercion, the violence, the asking for permission, the inflation, there's so much theft that we just got used to. And we don't have to.
Yeah.
And now we have the technological weapons of defense to put an end to that. That makes me crazy bullish.
Oh, amen. Hallelujah. Makes me bullish together with you.
Yes.
Max, please don't ever stop doing what you're doing. Please don't get too tired to be on our side. We need you always.
It's so much fun to work on Freedom Tech. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Good. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Thanks for the invite. This was great.
Thanks for being with us. Please take a minute to give this episode a like, a comment, and subscribe or follow. And please share it with your friends so they can also get value and choose to take some positive action in their lives. Till next time.